The ladies of The View just had a full-on meltdown trying to defend Joe Biden's mental decline. You know, that thing we've all noticed, but they pretend it wasn't happening. Some of the panel finally started admitting the truth, while others, like Sunny Hostin, would rather cry about Trump than hold their own party accountable. Welcome to Nelly Miranda. Before we dive into this chaos, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an episode of this political soap opera. Now let's start with Sarah Haynes, the one woman on The View who dared to say what voters have been screaming for years.
I do think one thing that really irks me on the left, and I don't really have a lot of faith in the right, so you tend to criticize the people that you line up more, that you care more about, and that would be the Democrats for me. People lost trust in them because the voters were saying there was a concern. There were people across the board saying they had a concern. And the Democrats said, no, over here, look over here. They told the voters what to care about, and they did not listen when the voters said they cared. So these stories come out aren't about beating a dead horse. It's saying if they could have a fair conversation that we heard you, we saw it as they saw it, they'd be gaining some of the voters back to say, okay, we're not going to keep saying that.
Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. I think that I want to move on from why the Democratic Party lost, and I want to hear from the Democratic Party about how we are going to take our country back and how what they are going to do to combat fascism and what they're going to do to stop the Medicaid cuts that are going on, to stop giving tax cuts to billionaires, to stop taking federal workers' pensions away, to stop taking federal jobs away, to stop taking education away, to stop attacking our institutions, to stopping, why is this Trump administration stopping medical research, cancer? I want to talk about why this administration is giving refugee status to South African white Afrikaners as opposed to Afghans and Ukrainians and people of color. That's what I want to talk about.
Sarah is right. It's not just about Joe Biden having bad days. It's about the Democratic machine lying to the American public, telling us our eyes were deceiving us, and that this is the sharpest Biden's ever been. Because if what we saw was Biden's best, then he had no business whatsoever holding any political power. Biden didn't know where he was most of the time, couldn't finish a sentence, and for 4 years, we had no idea who was signing executive orders. And now, after global instability, economic disasters, and total embarrassment, the media finally wants to talk about it. Jake Tapper finally wants to profit off of it. Because here's the thing, Democrats don't want accountability. They want amnesia. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Barack Obama, they all knew and played along. Because admitting the truth now would mean admitting that they knowingly propped up a man who was unfit for office. Sunny Hostin had the nerve to try and dismiss the core issues at hand, which was Biden's cognitive decline. And basically she said, I don't want to talk about Biden, let's talk about Trump. Girl, what? Like she really think raising her voice makes her right, and not one time did she address Biden's mental health. Now, enter Alyssa, clearly the last woman on The View with common sense.
77% of Americans in 2023 said Joe Biden was too old to run again. And they were told, sit down, shut up, he is the nominee. And then when it became untenable and he stepped aside, they anointed Kamala Harris. There was not a primary, there was not a democratic process. And then when she lost, they said, don't look backward, we're moving forward, we're not even going to talk about why we didn't listen to you. We had Joe Biden here last week. It was an honor to have him. I think he is a good man. I do not think he could have been president for 4 more years. The hardest job on the planet.
Can this guy be president?
He was elected. I didn't vote for it.
Real quickly, but President Biden took responsibility at this table, which is something that I'm frustrated with the Democrats. He said,
he did take
this falls on me. And I said that was the clearest answer of what people needed to hear.
George Clooney goes on the record to Jake Tapper and says he moved mountains. He flew in from Italy to do this record fundraiser for Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't recognize George Clooney. One of the most recognizable, men on the planet. And now that's not a presidential duty. It's not the job. You don't have to recognize George Clooney. But does that give you confidence that in the middle of the night, if China's about to attack us, there's a war breaking out in Iran, that he is the sharpest person to be able to handle that?
Which administration texted war plans to their brother?
The Trump. But it's
just like Joe Biden.
but do we just keep lowering the bar because Trump is bad? Nothing else is bad because Trump is bad?
But that can also be true.
Yeah,
But I do-
you know,
no,
but
but
I
I-
have the ship has sailed. It's out in the ocean somewhere with Biden.
We have Trump
it's
because
over. Get over it.
No, we have Trump because you guys screwed this up. With all due respect.
All right, but
When Alyssa mentioned Biden not recognizing George Clooney, do you see how Joy came to his defense talking about, he is looking different these days? So you telling me you don't recognize people when they change their hair? Or when they age? Like, that's ridiculous. Their entire strategy is to ignore Biden's failures and scream, but oh, Trump. And the audience claps at all the negative mentions of Trump. Like, these people do not want to be held accountable at all. They want the Democrats to win no matter what the cost is. Alyssa even criticized Biden during a CNN appearance, pointing out how in his interview on The View, he completely lost his train of thought and Jill Biden jumped in to save him. Now, imagine needing your spouse to field a question about your own mental health. It was the clearest confirmation yet that this man wasn't running the country. Take a listen.
Ask one quick question, Alyssa, about that interview. I mean, what did you make of the fact that Jill Biden was there with him?
I thought it was very unhelpful. I asked the specific question about allegations of his cognitive decline, and he began to answer it, and then she jumped in for him. And I get it, as a spouse, you want to help your partner, but that was his moment to knock out of the park any fear that he has cognitive decline, and it played into basically the worst assumptions, that he can't finish sentences and she had to help him out.
This whole meltdown proves one thing. Democrats would rather believe the American people are stupid than to admit that they're wrong. And rather than reflect on why Biden and Kamala lost the presidency, they double down. No accountability whatsoever. The past 4 years weren't a presidency. They were a charade. A bunch of unelected bureaucrats ran the country while Biden was used as a political prop. And what did we get in return? An open border, children confused about gender, racial division, and the normalization of chaos. The only good that came out of this was the Democrats showed us exactly who they are. And you would be a fool not to believe them. Was this the biggest political cover-up in the U.S. history? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, if honest commentary brings you value, please like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.